Alright guys, so Wonder Festival 2025 is currently going on over in China, and we've been slowly starting to see some reveals from other companies doing other products trickling in. Blockies has a Transformers display that is very exciting. They have a Jurassic World display that is exciting for its own right, but now that they have Toho or Godzilla, there's a lot of reason to be excited about what that potential line could look like. But Hiya Toys is present at Wonder Festival, and they've come with some pretty big heavy hitters that I'm sure will take quite a bit to come out. But let's go through it, and let's start with the things that we know are coming, that should be coming soon, that may or may not have already supposed to have been out. We'll start off here. Here's Godzilla 2000, or Godzilla 1999, I guess, if we want to get all technical. This guy is in color on display. Last time we saw him was at San Diego Comic-Con a few months ago, and this guy was grayscale. So to see him here in color, it makes me hopeful that this is a production sample of some sort or a near production sample. It's just been so long. I'm looking forward to having this guy. I'm looking forward to getting the monster arts of 2000 as well for different reasons, but I'm really looking forward to getting this guy. Keeping the Godzilla 99 train going, we've got the Heat Ray version here. We've got a closer look at that beam effect. It is the same beam effect as the one with 91 Hokkaido Heat Ray and several other Godzillas, but here he's in a nice orange color. Looks a little bit like orange soda. This is a Heat Ray one that I'm actually really excited for because the Heat Ray effect on the spines is so different, right? The orange is something unusual when it comes to Godzilla. This will certainly stand out on my shelf, and I'm again hoping that this is somewhere near production. I assume that these two are going to be out the factory relatively back to back. I say that, but 91 Hokkaido, there was a pretty sizable gap between the two, but I think that might have had to do with the redoing of the head sculpt. If these two are more or less final, I expect they will be out the door, especially because this beam effect is the only additional piece for this one, and this is utilizing existing tooling. So fingers crossed for that. Speaking of reuse of that beam effect and that sculpt, here is the Heat Ray GMK. I didn't see any photos of the standard looking GMK, unfortunately. Also, one thing, I'm not sure where these photos are coming from. I've seen some with like a Billy Billy watermark in the bottom right. They're just all over the place on Chinese social media, so I don't have any direct links, unfortunately. And I'm not on Twitter to find any because that's a hellhole of a website. Anyway, here's Heat Ray GMK, Godzilla 2001. And he does appear to be using like the same sort of method as the 91 Hokkaido with the translucent spines and a little bit of the gradient paint there. And I'm not like the way that the beam sits in the mouth. I think it's obvious that this piece was not originally developed for GMK. I suspect that when you view him from the side, he's going to have a pretty sizable gap between the beam and the back of his mouth, so you'll see like a little gap and a little window. That being said, like, it's GMK. This is my favorite Godzilla movie, so I'm excited for all the GMK rep that I can get, and I'm excited for the yellow fin version that I'm sure will come at some point. Here we have Godzilla 91 Hokkaido on the left, but here is our updated sculpt of Mechagodzilla 93. So here you've got a couple of alternate hands here. I still am of the opinion that the original solicitation sculpt was stylized. It wasn't accurate, but I enjoyed what they had done with it. This one looks good. It looks much more accurate to the movie, and so I'm happy for the folks that are into this. Although I do lament a little bit that previous sculpt. Looking down here at the toes, I'm not sure if what I'm seeing is individual toe articulation. I think that it's possible, but I also don't know if that's just how the prototype was built. So we'll have to see, but that could be potentially very exciting if they're doing the same thing like they had with Shimo, with articulated toes. But it's more Mechagodzilla 93. He's a pretty safe choice. That's why everybody does him. Hopefully we'll get an updated on the timeline for this guy. Okay, so here is Warbat, which we first saw at San Diego Comic-Con, in a little bit more of a dynamic pose. I think it was pretty easy to tell that when you saw him on display for the first time, he was a very early prototype, kind of stiff, he wasn't really in an action pose. He was just sort of in a standard flying pose. But here you can see the body is much more dynamic. There's a lot more bend happening and really working, I'm guessing, that rubber or that metal wire all throughout the tail. The jaw is going to be hinged. That's what I observed on the prototype. And Warbat is one that I assume would be coming soon, just because it is bendy wire, and it does seem like they figured out what's going on with Warbat. So I do expect that we'll see Warbat before the end of the year. And I certainly thought we would see Warbat before we saw Tiamat, which is on display here and has been updated to feature ball joint segments. I think that this is a huge sigh of relief for folks that were worried about Tiamat being made of bendy wire. And I think that that's a legitimate concern, right? Because bendy wire material does deteriorate with time, whereas ball joints are known to last a little bit longer and hold up against posing and such. She appears to have elbow joints. I'm going to guess that she doesn't have knee joints. I don't see any cuts here. I'm not sure why she would have elbow joints but not knee joints, but I'm not seeing them here. Regardless, I'm very happy with what I see here. I'm so glad that they were able to figure out how to segment her without breaking up the fins, the razor fins too much. Like, they do look a little bit broken up, but it's a trade-off that I'm more than happy to take if it means having a segmented figure rather than a ball joint, rather than a bendy wire. Now, I do expect that there will come a point in the tail where it does become bendy wire. But as you can see here, it does appear to be seamless. I doubt that this is all one big joint. I am inclined to think that this is going to be a bendy wire. It's just a matter of how far down the tail. Honestly, like, even if it ended like right here, that's still a good amount of ball joint design. If they made the rest of this bendy wire, I could live with that. I would be okay with that. But here's hoping that it goes a little bit further down. I'm really excited to see how they paint her up. I didn't really care for how the Playmates painted up their Tiamat. I just felt like there was a lot of clashes of colors happening. So I'm hoping that whatever they do here, that Hiya is able to make Tiamat look really good. And here is one of the big new reveals from Wonder Festival. I guess you could say the little reveals, but here we have Suko on display with Kong's axe, replicating the scene where he smashes Scar King's crystal. Now, of particular note, you'll notice that his joints appear to be not pinned swivels like the monster arts, and I'm sure that each and every person is going to be able to discuss this reveal in a civil manner. No, in all seriousness, I think that him being 7-inch scale is going to be a little bit easier to manipulate those joints. And while we have yet to see the paint and the eyes, I'm hoping that he's not going to look nearly as bugged out as the Monster Arts one could look. And speaking of bugging out, you may be able to see the next big reveal in the background here. It does appear to be confirmed that Suko will come in a 2-pack with Mothra, just like the Monster Arts version did. Now, I didn't actually notice this at first. I was just like, okay, cool, it's Mothra. And then I sent the photo to Rob, and Rob just pointed out, oh, hey, she has bendy wings. And I'm like, oh my God, she does have bendy wings. So it does look like they're going to be utilizing a technology similar to how they did Rodan with the bendy wire and the rubber latex flexible wings. Being able to do all that and still maintain the strength of the hinges on Mothra's body, I think is going to be a very curious thing to see them pull off. I'm hopeful that they're going to be able to do it, but I'm incredibly skeptical. I also hope that by the time this set releases, that they've figured out a better stand system, because their stands are not great. I wish that they would be, a little bit better. And I'm not just talking about the bases. I'm talking about the actual arms as well. But it does look like this will be a 2-pack. I'm going to guess that this is going to be around like the $60 mark, just because their Mothras up to this point have been $50. And I could see Suko adding another $10 to that price point. And then finally, I think this is the big one that most people are excited about. We have 2002 Kiryu here on display. So he's got the shoulder pack and then the Mazer wrist gauntlet things. I don't even know what they're called. But Kiryu's here on display. What is it, like a year after Godzilla 2002 was revealed? And just a couple months after the Heat Ray version was revealed. But Kiryu here does look fantastic. I'm very happy with what I see. Kiryu is not... I know Kiryu is like a really popular character, and like the monster art just goes for absurd aftermarket prices. Kiryu is not a figure that I have ever, or a character I've ever died for, but I do like Kiryu. I would like to have Kiryu representation on my shelf, and I'm really looking forward to picking this one up. And I'm sure that they're gonna make so many variants of this one. I would not be surprised if they do the red eye raging Kiryu, also coming with an absolute zero blast from the chest. That would not surprise me at all. And to have maybe missile effects or maser cannon effects, whatever it is, I'm sure that we're going to get so many of these. There will be a heavy arms variant, I have no doubt. There will be a Godzilla 2003 with the chest scar at some point. But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Kiryu love coming out of this mold and out of this line. And this makes me hopeful for this guy and for this guy, that we'll see Orga and we'll see Ghidorah, Baragon, and or Mothra coming out of this line. It seems like Tamashii Nations is doing the thing where they show a Godzilla and then do the opponent later. If this trend holds true of having a Godzilla and then the opponent later, you know, we saw it with Godzilla 91 Hokkaido and then King Ghidorah. We are seeing it now with Godzilla 2002 and then Kiryu. I'm hoping we can see Orga. I would love to see GMK Ghidorah or Baragon. Mothra is cool too. I just really hope we get there with this line. I'm sure we will eventually, but I would like to see those characters sooner rather than later, just because they don't get a whole lot of representation, especially GMK being my favorite movie. So that's all the Hiya reveals. And then out of nowhere, Tamashii Nations announces this thing. Metal Build EX Project. It's Kiryu. It's a stylized Kiryu figure. You can see he's got like more aggressive teeth. The spines are, I think the spines look much larger and much sharper. So my understanding in the brief time I've had to catch up on my chat with Michael is that this is a die-cast line from Tamashii Nations. It has been primarily focused on Gundam, but now seems to be crossing over into Godzilla and Hatsune Miku and Digimon. Real talk, this thing is... Michael was saying that this line tends to be in like the $250 range. I assume because Godzilla tends to be so much bulkier than, you know, traditional humanoid characters, that this thing is probably going to hit like $350 US. That being said, I think it looks super, super cool. I'm very curious to see more about it. And given that it's a Tamashii Nations product, I assume we'll have more information regarding solicitation within the next 6 months, if not sooner. So yeah, that's a lot to unpack for a Wednesday night, but there it is. So let me know, folks, what are you most excited about? Are you excited about Kiryu? Are you excited about ball joints on Tiamat? The Suko Mothra 2-pack? I feel like that one's probably not going to be the most popular in comparison to the others. Are you excited to see what looks to be production samples of their Godzilla 99 and Heat Ray Godzilla 99? Let me know in the comment section. And until next time, I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.